Welcome to the spiritual reflection this morning from Deborah's Tree. I'm the Reverend Roslyn Taylor. I invite you to set your coffee aside and anything else that is distracting you this morning and just spend a few minutes of reflection. Big breath, breathe out, and I have some mystical readings for you today with just a few comments. The first one is from the Gospel of John, chapter 14. It starts off with Jesus saying something and then Thomas, the doubting one, asking a question. "You know the way that leads to where I'm going." Thomas replied, "But we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way?" Jesus told him, "I myself am the way, I am truth, and I am life. No one comes to Abba God but through me." I know I can totally relate to Thomas's question about not knowing the way to walk in order to become a truly more spiritual person or to really develop a closer relationship with the divine. My questions come up several times in my life, especially under times of stress when I feel like I'm in some kind of dark cave and don't even know for sure whether the divine exists. So how could I possibly know the way? But Jesus's mystical answer suggests a couple things to me. First of all, that to follow that spiritual path, you need to know some kind of spiritual teachings, and then sort of sort out what's true and what's not helpful, and then more importantly, the life thing, living your life based on what you understand so that you can walk out on that spiritual path. But there's another kind of mystical reading in Swedenborg, and it comes from the book Divine Providence, number 60, if you wanted to look it up for yourself. And here it is. "Heaven is granted only to those who know the way to walk, who know the way to it and walk in that way. Present in an angelic character, moreover," and here's the important bit, "is a knowing of the way from walking in it, and a walking in the way through a knowing of it." The spiritual world also has in it actual paths which lead to every society of heaven and to every society of hell, and everyone sees their own path as though of themselves. But like I said, the part of that quote that is the mystical part for me that's sort of relevant to walking in the way. A knowing of the way from walking in it, and a walking in the way through a knowing of it. I just love the answer in that quote, the answer to Thomas's question, how can we know the way? I think that when you follow the way, truth, and life, and you walk the path by knowing it, and you know the way by walking it, that's the way that you'll find that piece of spiritual on your spiritual path. The easiest way for me to understand what Swedenborg is saying there is to see it as sequential. First, you need to be instructed and to think you know what the way is so you can actually start walking on it and start understanding what truth you need and start living it the best you can. But eventually, after you've walked for a while, you're walking from experience, from a knowing of the way. The knowing of the way has kind of moved from an intellectual knowing, from just knowing about it, to truly experiential knowing. In terms of your faith, you might say that it's moved, your faith in the Divine One's moved from a historical faith, which is the kind of faith that you absorb from the context in which you're growing up and in which you're living your life as a young person. So you start off walking because you know it from a historical point of view, but you end up with a truly personal, real faith in the divine. So our understanding moves from being separate from the desires that initially motivate our life to eventually being in alignment with the higher desires that motivate our choices. So I want to end with a poem by Sufi, who's a mystical His name is Rumi, and he's a mystical Sufi poet. And this is from what he wrote in the 13th century, so 13 centuries after Jesus' answer. And the poem is titled Your True Life. As you start to walk out on the way appears. As you cease to be, true life begins. As you grow smaller, this world cannot contain you. You will be shown a being that has no you in it. And that is the ultimate goal of walking that path. No you in you, but truly the divine in you. So my prayer for you today is that the way and truth and life might appear for you as you walk out in the way.